All rise. Oyez, oyez, oyez. Silence is commanded by this honorable commission. All those having business, draw near.
Thank you, and let me ask you while you're standing, to my left you will see a portrait of our former chairman, Pete Lakakis, who we eulogized and laid to rest this week. And I just want to, before we begin anything in this chamber today, or let us stand and have a moment of silence, all right, in his honor. Okay, let us do that, and then afterwards, I'll ask you to be seated, and I'll introduce our pastor for the day, who's going to do our inspiration and our invocation. And when he indicate the time for us to go in prayer, I would ask you to stand again, okay? At this time, let us all bow and have a moment of silence in honor of Commissioner Chairman Pete Lakakis. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. I get the honor today. Oh, let me do this before I introduce Reverend Scott. Please, ma'am, please, sir, check your cell phones. All right. I used to say beepers and pages, but I don't think nobody have pages anymore. But please check your cell phones and make sure that they don't go off in this proceedings, because the deputy sheriff will confiscate them. And so I ask you now to check it to make sure that you have it off. With that having been said, today we are honored to have the Reverend Anthony R. Scott. He was born in Savannah, Georgia, and is a graduate of A. Beach High School. He matriculated at Savannah State University, majoring in civil engineering technology, and attended Payne Theological Seminary for his Master's of Divinity degree. He began his professional career becoming a drafter at a local civil engineering firm at the age of 16. I was employed at Gulfstream in design engineering, retiring after 30 years, and was blessed to be the first African-American engineering manager, reporting to the Vice President of Engineering. His spiritual development was matriculated at St. Philip Monumental AME Church, and from his toddlerhood to his adulthood. In 1998, he received a call to preach, and the call was answered in 1991. And following several churches' assignment, he was appointed to historic St. James AME Church on April the 6th, 2018. He is married, and they are the proud parents of 4 grandchildren. No, they are the proud parents of 4 and grandparents of 3. Someone I've known, let me say, all his life. His mom and I, we taught together, and we worked at the same school, and his father and I were neighborhood advocates together, all right, as we work to improve our neighborhood. Let me introduce to you the Reverend Anthony R. Scott, who shall take the podium at this time, and when he indicates time for prayer, I ask everyone to stand. Reverend Scott, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commission Chairman Ellis, and to the Board of Commissioners here, and certainly my Commissioner and Pooler. Amen. We thank God for you. I consider it an honor to be before you and to be asked to give a word of devotion at this particular time. I come, as said, in the lineage of Pouchet and Fraziers in this particular area, and I'm proud to be a part of this community. For our devotion, I wanted to just leave, especially in remembrance of former Commissioner Chair Pete Lakakis, that you may not be perfect, but you are purposed. You may not be perfect, but you are purposed. When we think of servanthood, and we're going to talk a little bit about, hopefully, devotion and servanthood and humility, especially with all of the horrific events that are going on around us, human trafficking, events in Ukraine, around the world, that it's a time of humility. When we think of servanthood, we often think about persons of lower positions, but you are servants. You may be low, but you serve a high calling, just as myself. And we serve people so that we can able to bring out the best in us all. When we think of servanthood, we think of who is that person that was the biggest servant in our lives. Most time we think of our moms. I think of my mom. She was a servant. She served the family. And all of us think of our mothers as one who was always there to nurture and to do without sometimes being thanked verbally, but did it out of love. As we think of service and servanthood, we add value to people, in which you are here today as our commission, to add value to this community through the people you serve. It's not about position or skill, but it's about your attitude, that you come at each meeting, at each opportunity in which to serve, to have the attitude to add value to whatever you experience. When we look at John 13, as we just celebrated the resurrection season, we find one of the most humbling and beautiful displays of servant leadership. You know, when the disciples, they booked the upper room in order to have the feast, they forgot to secure someone, a servant, to wash the feet of those who came in off of the dirty roads. Sometimes in being a servant, you have to walk on some dirty roads. Because they noticed that there wasn't anyone there, none of them volunteered for the job because they considered it to be a low situation. But Jesus looked around and saw it as an opportunity to give a lesson. And so he stripped down his garment and he went and knelt before them and he washed their feet. Because in order to be a leader, you must first be a servant. We find that in Jesus interacting with the men, he gave them a lesson in serving and adding value. So as we devote this time for this meeting in which we're about to present, we offer up a moment of devotion for service and adding value to what already is. As we look at the Maxwell Leadership Bible, it talks about Christian-like servant leaders. It talks about servant leaders as being motivated in love to serve others, in which you are here today. You came out of the love to serve others, not out of the glorious accolades that we know you all get as you walk into any presence or meeting that you might be in, but the fact of I'm here to do this because I love to serve others. Jesus' love was undeserving, it was unending and unconditional, and as well as being unselfish. He wasn't to do it to express gratitude, but simply love made him to serve. Also, servant leaders, they possess a security to allow others to serve them as well. Jesus knew that he was secure enough to get down on his knees because he knew who he was. Oftentimes, we have to do things for the greater good than our own agendas because we know who we are and the constituency that you serve. But we also look at the greater good of the community as a whole. It's not about having titles and being insecure, but it is about being secure in the towels that you have, the towels of the districts that you serve, that they can also be able to stoop and to stretch out in God's plan and know that Jesus is in control of every situation. It's also about being able to initiate servant leadership, as you do with the different auxiliaries and groups that you have. The disciples, they were unhappy at the fact that Jesus took the time to wash their feet. But we also find that Jesus didn't wait for protocol. He did what was needed, and he answered what was required, just as I'm sure that you do as well. It's about what's needed and not about the protocol. When no one else volunteered, he had set the example. So now my friends, we come to set examples. And I hope that through these words that I'm giving you today, that you're able to also not only initiate servanthood, but you're also able to receive servant blessings. Sometimes we are often helping others. We forget to allow others to help us. So as a commission, you come not to bear the weight on your own shoulders, but with your fellow peers to be able to bear the load in which this community is able to move forward. So as leaders, we add value. We add value to the people that we serve, and we come to reverse some of the social expectations that may exist. And they can be simple things as making people feel that they're worthwhile or special. Sometimes it's just by having an encouraging word to someone, or by simply walking through the crowd slowly. I can remember at Gulfstream, one of the biggest things that we found was that the leader would take the time to go on the floor and talk to the persons who were putting the plane together. We can't get so loftily that we are no earthly good. So let us continue to be servant leaders. Just as Jesus, he added value to the woman of Samaria. He had value to the tax collector. He had value to the prostitute. It's up to us to see how can we add value to the people that we serve. Servanthood is not about position or skill, but it is about attitude. And as we as believers, we are humbled that our Savior showed us in love, that we gently lead others and assume the role, even though we may be sometimes considered despised servants. So I leave you now with this prayer.
May we stand?
Most gracious God, who beholds all who dwell upon this earth, we heartily seek you for these servants, the Chatham County Commission, that they may always incline to thy will and walk in thy way, and that thou will likewise bless all who are set under their constituency and authority, that their constitution may be dedicated to the advancement of your glory, the safety, the honor, and the welfare of this county, that all things may be so ordered and settled by their endeavors upon the best and the surest of foundations, which peace and happiness, truth and justice be established among all generations. These and all other necessities for them, for us, and for our community, we humbly ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Pastor Scott, we just want to take this time on behalf of this commission to thank you for bringing us your words of inspiration and reminding us that we are servants and we are here to serve the people, this present age that we're in. Again, we say thank you and good to see you again. God bless you. Roll call.
Chester A. Ellis, Chairman.
Present.
Kenneth A. Adams, District 8, Vice Chairman.
Present.
Helen L. Stone, District 1, Chairman Pro Tem.
Present.
Larry Gator Rivers, District 2. Bobby Lockett, District 3.
Here.
Patrick K. Farrell, District 4.
Here.
Tanya Milton, District 5.
Present.
Aaron Whiteley, District 6.
Here.
Dean Kicklider, District 7.
Here.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, we're going to proclamations and special presentations, and I'm going to call on Commissioner Adams first, who will do a proclamation for our first proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Proclamation reads, whereas the term victim is more than just a label and has legal standing and protection that go along with it. The Crime Victims' Rights Act, passed here in Georgia and at the federal level, guarantee victims the right to meaningfully participate in the criminal justice process. And whereas victim service providers advocates, law enforcement officers, attorneys, and other allied professionals can help survivors find their justice by enforcing these rights, for they can reach more victims through innovative trauma-informed programs such as telehealth services and multidisciplinary teams, and whereas victim service providers and allied professionals can increase access to victim services and compensation in areas that have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by inequality by implementing culturally responsive services. And whereas victim service providers and allied professionals can increase access to victim services and compensation to areas that have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by inequality by implementing culturally responsive services. Whereas National Crime Victims' Rights Week provides an opportunity to recommit to ensuring the accessible, appreciate, and trauma-informed services are offered to all victims of crime, and Chatham County is hereby dedicated to helping crime survivors find their justice by enforcing victims' rights, expanding access to services, and ensuring equity, and inclusive for all. Now, therefore, I, Chester A. Ellis, Chairman on behalf of Chatham County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the week of April 24th through 30th, 2022 as Crime Victims' Rights Week in Chatham County, and reaffirm to commitment to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crime throughout the year, and express sincere gratitude and appreciation for those community members who are committed to improving our response to all crime victims so that they may find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Chatham County, Georgia, to be affixed this 22nd day of April, 2022.
Thank you, and there's Ms. Jones here, who is Director of Victim Witness. We ask you to come forward and receive your proclamation. And you may have any words that you want to say.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and also the commissioners. I just want to say thank you for acknowledging the work that Victim Witness does to support our victims of crime as we navigate them through the system of the courts, for them to understand how the process works, and also to provide them resources in the community to help them become whole again. Thank you.
Thank you. And we appreciate the job that you do. Any commissioners?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Ms. Jones. And on a personal note, she's a personal close friend, and I serve as her daughter's godfather.
All right. So I picked the right one to read the proclamation.
Yes, you did. I thought about that when I
Not
heard
knowing,
him reading.
yeah. Okay, good. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. Continue to strive on.
Thank you.
We'll now have a proclamation for Hurricane Preparedness Week. Call on Commissioner Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will read this proclamation and it will be accepted. I think that
By
is
Director Jones.
Director Jones, he's here. Yeah. So the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Chatham County's greatest natural threat is from hurricanes and tropical systems, and the impacts from these systems affect the whole community of Chatham County and extend throughout the state and region. And whereas the Chatham County Board of Commissioners and the Chatham Emergency Management Agency strongly encourages all residents and visitors are made aware of this threat and the potential dangers associated with these systems. And whereas both public and private entities should prepare for this threat through strengthening partnerships and development of emergency response and recovery plans in accordance with emergency management principles. And whereas the 2022 hurricane season officially begins June 1st and ends November 30th, and the best defense is preparedness and public education about the dangers of high winds, storm surge, flooding, and tornadoes that are associated with these systems and often occur for hundreds of miles inland. And whereas the impact from a hurricane or tropical storm may cause several $1 million in damages and debris, and every effort to prepare our citizens, our business partners, and our governments help to provide greater efficiency in the response and recovery effort. Now therefore, Chester A. Ellis, Chairman, on behalf of the Chatham County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim May 1st, 2022 through May 7th, 2022 as Hurricane Preparedness Week, so in Chatham County, and urge all businesses, citizens, and governments in Chatham County to participate in hurricane preparedness activities, review and enhance preparedness efforts by understanding the risks hurricanes pose to our community, and know what to do to mitigate damages and increase resiliency. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Chatham County, Georgia, to be affixed the 22nd day of April, 2022.
Director
Mr.
Jones.
Good morning, and thank you, Commissioners and Chairman, for recognizing this week as Hurricane Preparedness Week. Each year, we take a focused effort to remind the citizens of a variety of different activities that are associated with hurricane season, which begins June 1st, as you mentioned, Commissioner. And, everybody always asks us, well, what is this year's forecast? What is this year's anticipated level of storms? And Colorado State University just recently released what their forecast is for the year. And they are anticipating 19 named storms, 9 of those being hurricanes, with 4 of those being major hurricanes. And that does equate to an above average season again for 2022. Now, what does that mean to me? It really doesn't mean much because it only takes one storm. It takes one storm to affect our citizens. It takes one storm to affect our government. So we pay attention to every single storm that comes our way. And this week, during this week of hurricane preparedness, we are taking a concerted effort to remind our citizens of a variety of different things that they can do to help prepare themselves for hurricane season. On Sunday, we're going to talk about determining your risk. What is the major risk associated with a hurricane? So we're going to send out social media and other levels of information to our citizenry to make sure that they understand what the risk is from a hurricane. The most visible risk that everybody sees and thinks is the greatest risk from a hurricane is the wind. I'm here to tell you that is not accurate. The greatest risk from a hurricane is the water. There's an old saying in emergency management, you run from the water and you hide from the wind. So that's the main reason why we issue these evacuation orders, is to get people away from the water. Day 2, we're going to talk about evacuations. The county is split up into 3 different evacuation zones, and it's basically segmented from the Truman East, from the Truman to I-95, and from I-95 westward to our county line. So Zone A is that Truman all the way to the coast. Zone B is basically the center of the county, and Zone C is I-95 to the county line. So we're going to take some time to educate the public on that, remind those and those who have been here a while, and also to educate those who are new to our area. On Tuesday, we're going to talk about how do you assemble a disaster plan for yourself. How do you put those supplies together? We have a variety of different resources available to us. Citizens do as well, from Red Cross, Chatham Emergency Management, a ton of insurance agents. They all have what needs to go together in order to put together a plan and also a kit for yourself. So we're going to focus on what that kit looks like and how you can build that. We're doing that on Tuesday. On Wednesday, another common misunderstanding from homeowners is how do they work around their insurance, and how do they prepare for insurance claims and get things together to make sure that they have documented things properly. So we're going to take the day Wednesday to issue information about how to do your insurance checkup and some of the other fail-safe things that you can do, and the Georgia Office of Insurance and Fire Safety Commissioners is going to help us with that. On Thursday, we're going to talk about strengthening your home. What can you do to mitigate the effects of a hurricane? We're going to issue some information about what you can do some common stuff, what you can do if you're building a new home. We're going to issue information about what you can do to mitigate the damages from a hurricane for your home. On Friday, we're going to get to the civil side and start looking at how do you help your neighbor. What can you do to help your next door neighbor or those in your community if they have trouble with home renovations or if they have trouble putting together a kit. We're going to talk about what you can do to help your neighbor. And then finally on Saturday, we're going to wrap all this up by talking to our citizens about how to develop that written plan that I mentioned earlier. So we're giving them what the risks are, we're telling them where the evacuation zones are, how to build a kit, how to help your neighbor, what to do for insurance, and then we're rolling that all up on Saturday to talk about how you put all of that into a document, into a written plan for you and your family. So thank you again for dedicating this week. This allows us a concerted effort, focused effort, both publicly and privately, to reach those individuals throughout our community in order to make sure they're as ready as possible for June 1st. So thank you.
Thank you so much for the work you do. Any comments from any commissioners? Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We looking like we're gonna have a terrible season again.
It's an above average season, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
We're planning on
0, yeah.
executive order, we do it every year.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now I'll call on the manager who will take us into Employment Service Awards.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to invite up Carolyn Smalls, our Human Resources Director, if she would, I'm hoping that this will be one of our last electronic videos that we can begin to bring our team members in here so they can meet the board members because it's been really important to them. So, we're very thankful for our team members, but we'd like to get them back in here. It's really important that they be recognized, and they like to be on TV, by the way, so. Ms. Smalls.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Ellis and Commissioners. This month, we are recognizing 19 Team Chatham members who have reached a service milestone in their careers. These 19 team members have collectively provided 230 years of service to the citizens of Chatham County. Now, that's a lot of knowledge and experience being put to use from just this group of team members. Our longest serving honoree with 25 years of service began her career with Chatham County in 1997. A lot has changed in Chatham County government since then.
Believe me.
And even in the last 5 years, since our shortest tenured honorees began in 2017, Chatham County has expanded its services and has made numerous improvements in its operations. Again, a lot has changed even in 5 years. And our team members are a big part of Chatham County's accomplishments over the years, and we're proud to recognize them for that service and their contributions to the community. They help to make Chatham County a great place to live, work, and play. We thank them for their service, for their commitment, and their dedication to Team Chatham, and we congratulate them on reaching their service milestone. So please join me in recognizing our April 2022 honorees. Again, congratulations to our team members on receiving their service awards this month. We congratulate them for their service, and we thank them for their contributions to Chatham County. Thank you.
Thank you. We thank all of those who have joined us in the service of Chatham County. We don't have any chairman's items or commissioner items. We go to our table item. Board approval of an amendment to the Fire Protection Service Tax Ordinance, and this is the last readings for that, as it will clear the table. Then we go to our items for individual actions. First is the vote on the board appointment. Appoint Hugh Futrell to the Chatham Emergency Service Board. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second? Probably motion and second that Mr. Futrell be appointed to the Chatham Emergency Board. Please cast your votes. Commissioner Whiteley, how do you vote? Is he still with us?
Commissioner Whiteley?
Is he still with us?
If you're on, you may be muted, Commissioner
Here.
Whiteley.
All right. You voting?
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Whiteley votes yes. All right. 2, to request approval of the following budget amendments and transfers. In the general fund, A, transfer $31,337 from contingency to bridge repair and maintenance. B, transfer $54,420 from contingency to election salaries and benefit account. Is there a motion?
Second.
Properly motion and second that the request be approved. We're ready for the question. Please vote.
Yes.
Commissioner Whiteley votes yes. Number 2. All right, request number 3, request board approval, extension of the Chatham Area Transit Authority's line of credit with Wells Fargo Bank and the county's fiscal guarantee for an additional year. Is there a motion? There's a second?
Second.
Properly motion and second. Please cast your votes. Commissioner Whiteley, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right. Resolution to allow the tax commissioner to take steps to zero out a delinquent tax balance. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Properly motion and second that the request be granted. Ready for the question, please cast your vote.
Yes.
Commissioner Whiteley votes yes. Okay. All right, and that brings us down to our bi-monthly report by Director Servanthood.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see everybody.
Morning.
So we're doing the bi-monthly report for January and February. You know, the statistics are pretty much the same as they always are every month. I think everything's going pretty good. A couple of things I wanted to note in the report is that on page 2, when you see the pie chart, you know, you're always seeing multiple drugs that we're seizing over a 2-month period of time. And you know, as far as, you know, the pie chart, the purple, which is marijuana, is typically the largest of the pie, okay? What I want you guys to understand is we're really not running any marijuana investigations. Most of these investigations are meth, cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, but as I've said before, routinely, when we go out and we execute or we make arrests, the drug dealers are poly drug dealers, and we're seizing just a multiple of drugs. You know, it's a one-stop shop. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then, you know, we seized 4 weapons over the 2 months, and None of those were the ghost guns that we keep hearing about. And I went back and looked, and we are not seeing any ghost guns as far as C&T is considered, with all the seizure of the weapons that we have. So we're not seeing that as a problem here locally, at least C&T is not. And then on page 4, is the Narcan use and the overdose deaths. We're down. Hooray, we're down. Do I think that that's a long-term trend? No. I think we're going to have ups and downs on this. I just recently met with Chatham Emergency Services to look at their database and how they collect their information. They use a program called Biospatial, and it's extremely detailed. I'm trying to get some kind of access to that so I can better grasp of what's going on in the county. There are some HIPAA issues that we're trying to work through, but between the statistics that I have with OD mapping and the Biospatial, I think I'd be able to get a better idea where to redirect assets and where we need to be worried about, and maybe we're over the hump or the surge is coming, so to speak. But a couple of things, and I'll get into those here in a minute. The usual little PowerPoint that I've got for you guys. So one of the things that in narcotics that you're always trying to do is you're always trying to stay one step ahead and cutting edge, okay? So this is a case that I wanted to highlight for you guys. This is a straight up internet investigation, okay? So not only are our agents needing to be street savvy and how to do undercover and handle informants and do all that, they need to be computer savvy, okay? So this investigation, the individual was purchasing drugs off the dark web and then selling them off the internet. So people were going to his internet site, ordering stuff, and then so it was a complete internet enterprise. Yeah. And then, just recently we had a seizure of 2.2 kilograms of methamphetamine. And then, this is what I would consider one of our normal hotel seizures when we go out and we get a complaint or we get some information that somebody's moving something out of one of the hotels. And as you can see, it's meth, heroin, ecstasy pills, and those pills were laced and field tested positive for fentanyl. So those ecstasy pills that may end up down in one of these clubs that somebody thinks they're taking ecstasy is laced with fentanyl. And depending on what their tolerance level will depend on whether they survive taking that pill or not. So, this was a traffic stop. Okay, so our uniform officers with the city and the municipalities and CCPD, they're out there every day doing their job, and they come across, a purse and a bag, and they open that up, and voila, you got 8 grams of fentanyl. And, I've already talked to you guys about how much 8 grams of fentanyl and how, depending on whether that's even cut or whatever, just how potent that can be. I know that we've had recently probably 2 or 3 incidents where, again, these aren't the ones I've talked about in the past, where we've had uniformed people that have had to be dispatched straight to the hospital because of an accidental occurrence with the fentanyl. So, exposure? Yes, just exposure, okay? And that's that goes to show you just how potent this is an officer can touch something and have to be taken to the hospital. So you can only imagine how potent that is if someone was to actually take it. So. Another hotel interdiction where we got 18 bags of fentanyl and 4 baggies of cocaine. So, we're, typically when we get out to these hotels and we're doing what we need to do, we're seizing just about every time we come in contact with a drug dealer, we are seizing, whether it's a small amount or a large amount, we are getting fentanyl. And that's just daggum scary. Okay, so our response, C&T's response, I wanted to thank Ms. Stone for attending my public event that we held. We utilized the Islands High School auditorium. That was very well received. I'll be honest, we didn't have that many people from the public there. Some of that may have been my fault in how I advertised that. I won't make that mistake again because I plan on doing at least 2 or 3 more of those. The upside to doing that event was that the public school system was there, and they were represented, the higher ups, and so that was done on a Thursday, and by Monday I was sitting down with all the people at the school board discussing how we could do things and some ideas and how we could get some programs into the schools, mainly the middle school and the high school. So I'm still working with them to get some of those things going. The presentation that I did called Chasing the Dragon, I think is extremely powerful. It speaks for itself, so I don't have to be the guy that's never taken fentanyl or opioids or anything. You're listening kind of to the experts that were the addicts, and so you just defer to them, and so it's very powerful. So one of the things I think the school is going to do is they've got a group of students that are pretty active. And they have in this group, and we're gonna basically do a showing to them and get some feedback from the kids, which I think is very important. Yes, ma'am?
I just wanted to say that your presentation was a very powerful presentation and a very good presentation for my colleagues here. This really was a film of users of opioids and fentanyl. And some endings were better than others. Some ended in death. And I think that working with the school system is key here to educating young people of the dangers of something that might seem very mild at the moment, but could ultimately end in their death. And anything that we can do to help get this message out. And I'm very, very pleased. I mean, it may be temporary to understand that the rates have gone down a little bit, numbers have gone down. But y'all, this is still a very serious problem, especially among young people that get hooked into this and don't even know what they're getting hooked into. And so it's pretty frightening, as well as prescription drug opioids of people that are in our business community that may be suffering from some type of opioid addiction due to a prescription medication. So I just want to thank you all Commander, for doing this, for getting this message out. And the more people we can reach, maybe our success will be higher. But thank you.
It can't hurt. So just one,
Yeah.
Commissioner Milton, just one thing.
Keep going, go.
Is just, I keep trying to put this daggone thing in perspective, okay? In 2021, the #1 cause of death in the United States between 18 and 45-year-olds, opioid. And that's all fentanyl, okay? So from 2018 and 2019, we were in the 20 and 30 year number range with deaths, and the presence in the tox report was about half fentanyl. So, fast forward last year, we had 54 overdose deaths. All 54 of those, the tox report had fentanyl in it. So, back when I was growing up on the job with DEA, I did my first 13 years in Detroit. And so, that goes back in the 80s. I'm an old guy. And, we had the crack the crack epidemic, okay? And crack, you became addicted to it the first time, a lot like opioids. But you didn't take it one time and die. That was over a period of time that it wore the body down, okay? And so, you know, opioids have been around forever. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of years, and we've had opioids addicts. I mean, back in China with the opium dens and all that. The game changer is that now it's laced with a drug, fentanyl, which is a synthetic opioid, and it's a one-shot deal. That's it. There's no, you know, I don't think that was such a good idea. You take it because we can't talk to you to tell you that. It's a one-shot deal. So, and then, so Commissioner Milton, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, I wanted you to complete your statement. Thank you. I'm concerned about the program. I'm interested in the program and just wondering, how are you moving forward with the school board? Will it be something that we can enter into the schools, the high schools?
Yeah, I think it is. They were extremely excited about the meeting and what we talked about and how we're going to do it, and you know, and you'll hear me say this a lot too. Not my lane, okay, but it is my lane to bring it to them, and they're the educators. So I'll defer to them on how, you know, however they want to do it, I will help, okay? And I'll be a part of it.
How available is this program and the movie that they watched?
Well, I mean, we can provide all of that, Ms. Milton. And what I have proposed is that I will do a train the trainer. So I would like to go in, and I'm working with Chief Enoch and all those people, but I propose that I train all of the resource officers in the schools. We'll have a high school program, and we'll let, you know, and I might be getting a little ahead of myself here because I'm not the one making those decisions, but I would like to train them because we already have a resource officer assigned to every high school, and we'll let them put that program in, and they run into a problem, they pick the phone up, call me, I'll come fix it. And then we can do maybe not the program that for the high school we would do in the middle school, we would find another program. And what I'm proposing is that I don't know what 2024 problem's gonna be.
Right.
I mean, somebody would have told me 8 years ago, I'd be standing in front of a commission talking about fentanyl. I couldn't spell it. Still have a hard time, does the Y go before the N or after the N? You know? And so there's gonna be another problem. So I wanna get something in place to where we can seamlessly move. Okay, here, but this is the problem, let's shift gears and then we can go into this. It's all set up and ready to go. So that's one of the things. I think we're gonna get there. I will tell you this, the school board here was 10 times more open than they were in Knoxville. So I am very hopeful. I think we're going to get it there.
Well, that's a great start, and anything we can do to help.
Well, I appreciate that, and I know Chairman Ellis has expressed his confidence in that he would help do whatever, and I know that from all of y'all. And then the last. Well, I have two things. The last thing is that last night we held our first official family support group that I put together for families that have lost somebody to an opioid death, and that's going to be a little slow moving. Last night's meeting was very moving, very emotional. We're doing that with the Recovery Center. Because they're more of a specialist. I just felt like I was a facilitator to put this together. So that's moving forward. And then the next thing is that I will start trying to, I'm going to sit down with some folks next week At our presentation that Ms. Stone was, a gentleman stood up that he was right in the middle of this. So they were dealing with a family member. So it wasn't on the front end, wasn't on the back end, it was right in the middle, okay? And so he, you know, they are in crisis mode. And I didn't have an answer. If he says, hey, Mr. Sarhat, what do I need to do? I didn't have an answer. So I am meeting with some folks to try and put together somewhat of a package that when someone does come up and say, hey, my kid's doing this and we've tried this, well, okay, here's the package. You know, here's where you call, here's where you go, here's what you do. All right, so that was the other good thing that came out of the presentation at the high school, was that I had a hole in the program, in the overall program. So, and so I'm working on that. I'm working on that. So.
Any questions now from, all right, let me get them in
Chairman.
order. Let me start with Commissioner White, since he's on. Go ahead, Commissioner Whiteley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Sarhat, I just wanted to thank you for your proactive approach with the program. Getting to our youth is going to be vitally important to try to break the cycle as we see. And I just want to tell you that, as you've already expressed and should know, you have my full support. I'm sure all my colleagues' full support on whatever we can do to try to get ahead of this, because it's not only killing our children, killing parents, killing our citizens, it's hurting our community at large. And so, again, thank you for that program. I think it is huge, and I'm excited to see it happen in different schools throughout the county. And that is, when we talk about lanes, if there is anything in my lane that I can do to help,
Okay.
echoing the sentiment of everybody else, please let us know.
Well, I appreciate that, and as the director, I feel that you guys are definitely behind me. So that is a comforting thing, because sometimes when you're getting into these different areas, not everybody might not want you to be doing that. So I appreciate the confidence and all of you, your willingness to help push this program forward. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Kicklighter.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. You're doing an outstanding job.
We'll see about that.
But you are. I would like to see you also, if you would, possibly include the private schools, because it's my understanding a lot of times that those kids just have more expensive drugs. And I could see it very easily where any child would think that they can buy a pill and they're going to live through it. But I think it's really impactful to hear that everyone that died last year here had fentanyl somehow attached to it.
Yes.
So I think if you could contact the principal of each private school and middle school and high school and request, because they don't have resource officers, request that they assign one educator to come and be your go-between, where you can train them and then they could go back to their private school and hold an assembly and be able to present that to the kids at that school. I just think, and that might be something you may get further with the public schools doing that also, asking the principal, going directly to them and getting them to assign an educator. Because if that happens, you've started at the top of the school,
Right.
the individual school, and they wouldn't have the problem putting the assembly together. Whereas a resource officer might not be listened to if they come forward just asking, hey, can I host, so that would be my recommendation. You're doing an outstanding job.
I just wrote down that, that as a to-do list.
Yeah.
And,
I know my ex-wife's a principal of a middle and a high school, and I know without talking to her, she would be more than interested to assign someone to hear it and be able to present it to those kids where they would know the dangers. Because it's not like you said years ago, a kid could possibly take something and live, and as we all know, it's not good to take anything and work towards their slow death. But these kids need to know that they're going to be lucky if they get a slow death nowadays with the drugs that's out there.
Correct.
So Thank you
Okay.
for everything.
I mean, I think that's easily doable. You know, I could train the trainer for the, and I would train all the, you know, like the health teachers or the whoever teacher,
Right.
whatever they chose. I mean, more than willing to do that.
That's awesome, because it really is truly unbelievable that every overdose had fentanyl
Yeah.
involved in it.
When
I
I
mean,
saw
that's-
that number,
That's unreal.
yeah.
Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation, Director. Do you have the numbers on fentanyl deaths among youth?
I think, no.
Okay.
All right, can I get that? Probably. We lost 106,000 people last year in the United States. Up about 25% one year to the next. As I said, 18 to 45, #1 cause of death in the United States. I would say that the bulk of those deaths were probably the 20 to 30 range. And the reason I say that is because what we just discussed.
Gotcha.
If somebody's using opioids, it's a ticking time bomb. You know, it's one thing if somebody becomes addicted and can get true prescription opioid, okay? But what happens is it's the slippery slope. You know, there's a lot of people that become addicted because they've been prescribed this, okay? And then they can, you know, legally, they're only allowed to get so many. And then the addiction becomes stronger than that, and so then they turn to medicine cabinets, or they turn to wherever they turn to, and then they eventually get out on the street, and so they're like, well, I'm gonna buy prescription drugs on the street. Well, those prescription drugs, what they think is made at these labs, are made in people's basements with pill presses. They're getting the dyes out of China. So, I mean, you can put them right next to each other, and you ain't gonna tell. Really, the average person can't tell which one was made where, okay? And that's when you get to the fentanyl, because it's cheaper to buy the fentanyl, it's a better high, and so they're always chasing that next high. Hence the name Chasing the Dragon, is that first high is the best one, they're always chasing to get the better one, okay? And so it's the slope is down, and now that we add the fentanyl, you're not seeing people that start at age 20 they're not making it to 30. So as an educated guess, I would say that range, the bulk of those deaths were between 20 and 30 years old.
Thank you, sir. One more question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned ecstasy laced with fentanyl. Are they making it with fentanyl, or is it just close contact?
I would say, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay? I would say that a little of both, okay? So that, I mean, they have these pill presses, they're getting this ecstasy, they're pressing it however they want to press it, you know what I mean? And so those are illegally made, and we are seeing everything laced with fentanyl. And I don't understand sometimes why some things are laced and they're not, but they are. And that's the reason why I go, hey, I just want to let you know, average case, we just say LSD, meth, heroin, fentanyl, because the cross-contamination, I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Thank you, sir.
All right, any other questions for Commander? All right, Commissioner Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question, these guys who are handling the fentanyl, are they in fear of, I mean, you're talking about touching it, or?
Yeah, yes. So understand this. Everybody has different tolerant levels, okay? Even if they're not an addict, okay? I react differently to aspirin or an opioid with my hip than the boss or you, okay? So everybody's gonna react differently to it, okay? And once again, not a medical doctor, but it's my belief that some people are more susceptible to becoming addicted instantly than other people.
So when putting this stuff together, they wear body armor and all this?
Well,
stuff?
when stuff like that, we find the masks and we find the gloves and we find all those things, and then some people are just more, they have a higher tolerance to some of it. We had an instance, and I'm hesitant to say this because I have not verified it yet, but there was a possible overdose on an infant. So, we're going to start seeing stuff like that, where these kids are getting into it, So, regardless if that one was actually, that's what happened, I went, I hear that, and I'm like, okay, that's the next, side problem to all of this.
Yeah, because it get in your clothes and the child.
Because I'm more worried about our uniform officers and the first responders, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, geez, here we go. So, very complex.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Boss?
And appreciate all you do.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
All right, now we go to, next in line is our action calendar. No one expressed any idea to pull anything off, so may I have a motion to accept the action calendar in its entirety?
Second.
Probably motion is second that the action calendar be taken in its entirety. You ready for the question? Please cast your vote. Commissioner White, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Whiteley votes yes. From the action calendar, we go to our first reader. The petitioner, Robert Brandon Jr., agent for Sheffield and Shore LLC, owner, is requesting rezoning from an R-1/EO, single-family residence and environmental overlay, to BN Neighborhood Business Zoning District at 7411 Skidaway Road, MPC file number Z022-000-233, PIN 103770919 10377 09020 10377 09026 and 10377 09023, District 1. The Planning Commission recommend approval of the petitioner's request to rezone the subject property from R-1 EO single family residence to BN neighborhood business / environmental overlay with the following condition: a 30-foot vegetation buffer be required along the eastern and southern property line with a degree of OC, which will obstruct the scene from the right of way and adjacent residential property as determined by the county abated. The county abatement shall approve the removal of any existing tree on site, all right? We have asked that this, Mr. Manager, go back to the MPC The MPC then and get in touch with Commissioner Stone as well as residents, okay, before it comes back, before we get to second reading. All right? All right, that moves us on to our second reading. Request board approval to repeal the fire protection service tax ordinance and replace it with a fire protection service fee ordinance. Are there anyone here who signed up to speak? All right, hearing none, we will vote on this at our next meeting. We will let this be on the table until the next meeting when we will vote. In the meantime, we will make sure that the public knows which options the commissioners have agreed upon and what that says, okay? We should do that by press conference as well as we should do that by the news media and our county website. Board approval of amendment to add a tree harvesting notification ordinance. Is there a motion?
Second.
Is there a second? Properly motion second that the board approve the amendment to add the tree harvesting notification ordinance. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by voting. Commissioner
Yes.
Whiteley? Commissioner Whiteley votes yes. All right. With that, that brings us to the informational items. Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir, thank you. You do have the report and writing it online, I think in your package. Just a couple things I do want to mention, as I told the clerk of Superior Court, a great opportunity, if you get your passports, if you want to go to the post office, go, that's fine. It's going to take you a long time, but you can do walk-in for passports, and now traveling's opening with the clerk of Superior Court, and they do an awesome job. I did it, and it took a few weeks versus sometimes months. But she is doing, and her staff, a special, it's 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Saturday, I'm looking, I've lost the date, April 30th. If people want to go 8 to 12, I've told her we're getting a lot of interest in it, that she may have to do some more Saturdays. But if folks would, we've got this, we put it out on social media, and we're getting a lot of hits, because people are starting to travel. The last thing I have, besides the items in the package, is I want to thank Commissioner Stone. I want to thank her for bringing up an issue several times on what we saw as illegal placement of items out on the side of the road. And she asked us to look at townhomes, apartments, condos. We're working on the apartments, but the ones that really got us, plus residents, I authorized an audit through our internal audit department. They put one of our best auditors on this. They found almost 3,500 that were not paying. So that's $300,000 of found money. But what happened is you have a condo unit that it's not one unit. It's separate units, and they should be billed individually. So that's a flaw in the system. So they're doing that. We'll probably find a few more, but we're going after those. It's going to be on their bill in the fall. Are we going to do past? We don't know. We're talking about the expense of doing that. But I want to thank her for bringing that up. And as commissioners, when you bring up, we don't know everything. We don't know what we don't know. So when you bring items to us, it gives that opportunity to us as staff to go do audits and to do studies, so or look at legal matters, whatever, and changing ordinances and things that are going to be, because why should I pay my trash fee if my neighbor is not? It's not fair. So this was great. I just want to thank her, for that.
Mr. Chairman?
All right, Commissioner Stone?
Should we also be looking, I've noticed around the county that we have a lot of mobile home sites.
They're looking at those because some are individually owned.
Okay.
Some are rental, most are rental. You have a mobile home.
That's what
and
I'm
in that
talking about.
case, they have to have dumpsters because that's a commercial revenue venture.
But when I ride past some of them, I do see items, bulk items placed out, like refrigerators and that kind of thing. So
We're
I
gonna,
wanna-
that's something we're gonna crack down on with enforcement to say, you cannot do that.
Okay.
If you have individually owned lots in mobile homes, they can.
Yes.
So that's what we're looking at, to delineate. We don't think we do not have to change our ordinance. There may have to be a tweaking, maybe this summer, but the biggest thing was going out to find out who was not paying. This will be much like, you're having a discussion coming up about fire fee. We'll be doing the same kind of audits to make sure people pay.
All right, Commissioner.
I hate to be like the police, but we have to police it. Everybody's not honest. Sorry.
All right. Commissioner Farrell.
Yeah, with the upcoming budget, I'd like to see, if we're bringing in more revenue, that perhaps we adjust the trash fee down a
You're
little
still
bit.
gonna be 400,000 short if I collect that 300,000, which I'm gonna have to take out of SSD. I was ready for your question.
Lower those fees.
But that's what the audit department showed up with.
Yes,
What-
and that's
yeah,
because we
so-
were 700,000
Right.
under our estimate. This is gonna help reduce that to 400, so
Mm-hmm.
it's less impact. So we're not recommending, my recommendation would be ease it up a few dollars so we can make it up. I know, but I'm just saying, we have to take it out of taxes.
Let's get the facts.
So I
before
was
we-
ready for that.
Before we put anything out there in the atmosphere, because see, sometimes people grab what's in the atmosphere and they run with it, and it's incorrect. So don't put nothing in the atmosphere. Let's get the audit done and let's get those done so we can. Let me recognize our tax commissioner, all right, who is in the audience with us today. One of our constitutional officers. Thank you so much for being here. All right, there is a need for us to go into executive session for appointments, all right? And so may I have a motion to go to executive session?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second? Properly motion is second that we go into executive session. Are you ready for the question? Please cast your vote. Commissioner Whiteley, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right. All right, so adjourn from this and go into executive session.